Welcome in. It's the PennLive Wrestling Podcast. Dustin Hockensmith here with Dave Heckard, and it is championship week here in high school wrestling. The PIAA championships, AA and AAA, kick off Thursday morning at Giant Center, a 3-day tournament that concludes on Saturday. AA finals and consolation finals in the early afternoon, AAA finals and consolation finals Saturday evening. So a whole season worth of work here, Dave, comes down to 3 days, and we're going to do our best here to breeze through and just look at the highlights of each bracket. Of course, you can go to the PIAA championships website to check out the brackets if you haven't seen them already. Flow Arena, they probably have them already too to get into them. We're just going to touch on the high notes here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Thursday morning's like Christmas morning. You get up and the start of the state tournament, and I like, it's a big deal. And for me, I haven't missed a state tournament since 4th grade. I mean, I used to come home from college and watch this, and my roommates would be like, "Are you crazy? Like, you're going home to watch high school wrestling?" But they don't get it, So this is a great tournament. In my opinion, the best tournament in the country. Beast of the East and Powerade and all those tournaments are big time tournaments. But to me, there's just nothing like the Pennsylvania State tournament. So I'm excited to get started here and take a look at some of these brackets for sure.
Well, let's do it. Let's start on the AA side. We'll just go down through, really just focusing in on where District 3 kids are and more specifically where some of our more local guys are. So looking at 106, this weight class, I feel like there are 3 clear-cut top of the line guys. I think there's a trio of guys who are capable of winning this bracket. Now, certainly there's some other tough guys. And what we've got, Aaron Seidel, the freshman from Northern Lebanon, is one of those guys. And what it ended up happening last Saturday, got a really good win over Aiden Smith from Notre Dame Greenpond in the Southeast Regional Finals. What that did was set up Aiden Smith and Louis Gill, the defending state champion at 106 pounds, to likely wrestle in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, he's by far, I think, the best kid on the bottom half of the bracket. So you talk about a win in a regional final having some ramifications that extend into this championship final. Now he's got a little bit of an easier road. Now, certainly he's going to have to wrestle through all that, but now you've got Aiden Smith and Louis Gill, who I think are the other 2 of that 3 having to wrestle early in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, you do yourself such a favor by winning that region. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of weight classes, just set yourself up better. And, like I do, I feel like there's some luck sometimes with the bracket, and you just set yourself up a little better to when you win regions than waiting to see if you're going to end up on the right side of the bracket sometimes. But, I think you said it perfectly. And Aaron Seidel is a factor at 106. I think looking at the bracket, I mean, he from Trinity, Major Lewis is on the bottom side of that bottom bracket. And, he's got a tough first and definitely like a second round matchup with that Parker Centipal from Burgettstown. But, if he does get by that, that's a winnable match for him. I feel like if he does get by that, we could see a District 3 semifinal with him and Seidel again. So, hopefully on the District 3 side that happens. But, I do like Aaron Seidel, and I'd love to see, Seidel and Gill get after it in the finals.
Yeah, I think, but I wouldn't rule out Aiden Smith either.
No, you're right. You're right.
Beat Aiden Smith. He beat Aiden Smith in the Powerade finals. It was a 6-4 final. But that's a good point about Major Lewis. It's hard to find, a better 4th place finisher from a region than Major Lewis getting out of that Southeast. And just, there are 4 out of the top 6 kids in the state at 106 pounds there. Cale Quigley, the other from this area, he'll wrestle in the preliminary round. If he wins, beats a kid from United, he will wrestle Aaron Seidel in the first round. And then you have Braden Hartrant for the freshman from Berks Catholic, really promising kid who finished 5th in Southeast regions. He will wrestle in the pigtails as well. He'll wrestle if he wins there. Colton Wade from Sullivan County. Looking at 113 pounds, let's start just in the top half of the bracket. Mason Mcclendon from Susquehanna, really good, solid junior. He finishes 4th, again, a really good bracket in the Southeast region there. If he wins in the first round, in the preliminary round, he will wrestle Gavin Bradley, a returning state finalist who's just an animal from Athens, just the favorite, I think, to win this weight. So that's a tough draw there. Devin Jackson is another kid worth watching from West Perry. His final run at Giant Center here, Dave, and he was a 4th place finisher at 106 pounds a couple years ago as a sophomore. Did not get a chance to wrestle in Hershey as a junior last season. Really tough competitor. is used to this environment, used to this stage, got to wrestle in the PIAA team championships in Giant Center a couple weeks ago. Also, just the style matchup with him. Anybody wrestling him for the first time has an adjustment to make, and how well you make that adjustment could determine whether you can or can't beat Devin Jackson. So there's always, he's always kind of a wild card in these brackets. Tough enough, I think, to wrestle his way through, and I think he's capable of beating most anybody.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I feel like he should have a pretty good quarterfinal matchup with the Bainey kid from West Branch. I feel like that's a pretty good, that should be a good bout. The Wenzel kid from Montoursville is on the upper side of that bottom half of the bracket there. And I think, Wenzel will be a tough match for Jackson, but, I think you get into semifinals and, you medal, and then, you lay it on the line and see where that takes you, so. Devin Jackson's a competitor. He's been here before, and I do see him coming home with a medal. It's up to him really where he finds that medal. What place he gets. So, but hopefully he does end his career on a pretty good note. So.
This is a really deep bracket. I think it's worth pointing out. And I think the bottom half especially has some more pitfalls and challenges along the way there. So one worth watching Devin Jackson at 113 pounds. Looking at 120, this is a weight class that brings back a state champ in Jaden Pepe from Wyoming area. He won as a sophomore last season at 113 pounds. Cooper Hornack, who wrestled in the 106 finals last year as a freshman, could end up wrestling in the quarterfinals against Jaden Pepe and dictating one state finalist will not make it to the semifinals in this weight class. It's certainly not the only one. A couple other highlights here from a statewide perspective. Adam Schweitzer is doing some really good wrestling. And you see some of these District 11 guys who have all been to Ironman or Beast of the East and Powerade and Escape the Rock. This kid is better than 10 losses. So I would caution anybody looking at this weight class to look beyond this kid Schweitzer from Notre Dame Green Pond, because he's the real deal. And I think he's going to be a real tough out here.
I would agree. And I mean, that holds true on double A, triple A. Some of the teams and the schedules they wrestle, like you look at their schedule and they might have 6, 7, 8 losses, but I mean, those 6, 7, 8 losses are to darn good guys. And, so you got to take that into consideration. That upper half of the bracket's pretty impressive there. The Bainey kid from Bald Eagle area, I know, is pretty tough. And that's who our District 3 from Lancaster Catholic, Eric Howe, will match up against first round. So that'll be interesting to see, what happens there. But yeah, like I said, the Colson kid from Camp Hill, Jackson Rush from West Perry in the bottom half of the bracket in the pigtail match. And, as a freshman, you're getting into the mix. It's good to get here and get that experience. So, for the young guys, just keep kind of, winning, survive and move on, survive and move on. And, I'd like to see Jackson Rush do a little bit of that here.
Tough go for District 3 in this weight class. You had two of the top three, or the two top kids from the region were not from District 3. So a lot of tough draws in that mix there. 126, this is a pretty open weight class, I think, from a statewide perspective. You got Noah Doy, the freshman from Camp Hill, who's wrestling a pigtail match at the very bottom of the bracket. Wrestling a kid, Mark Palmer from Brockway, who, you see some regions and some weight classes are stronger than others. And if you're wrestling a pigtail match, the best you can hope for is to get a lesser known kid in that first round match. I think Noah Doy, really good athlete, really good competitor, makes the state tournament as a freshman, just as his older brother Christian did. Not an ideal position, but he's somebody who could be a bit of a wild card. Cameron Minji from Littlestown, the sophomore, he's also wrestling a pigtail. He finished 5th in the Southeast region. Southeast region champ was Chase Hans from Faith Christian Academy. So he's got a pretty decent draw in the top half of the bracket. Scott Johnson, I think the junior from Muncie, who was in the state finals last year at the same weight. So back at 126 as a junior, I would circle him as the guy to beat here. And that's the guy that Eli Bounds from Boiling Springs, if he's able to beat Dylan Bruce from Elizabeth Forward in the prelims, will get a shot at Scott Johnson. I think Eli Bounds can keep it tight with him. I think Eli Bounds can keep it tight with anybody. The question is, can he score enough to get past him?
Yeah, I mean, that's, sometimes you're in that pigtail match, though, you get a match before that pigtail where that guy, look, we've been a victim of that, where you're sitting in that little first round match and the people before you wrestle, well, the person gets a match in. And as you know, like the best match you wrestle of any tournament is your second match. So you get those first round jitters out and then you go and wrestle. And sometimes that can be an advantage. So, You know, I like to see Eli, Noah, you know, Doy do that a little bit and maybe take advantage of the positions they're in, you know?
Yeah, and I think that for those guys in particular, it can help them out. Certainly daunting matchups there. And I think both of them, you know, kind of capable of hitting that medal stand if all goes well. And then you've got a guy, Dylan Reinhardt from Brandywine Heights, who didn't wrestle his best at sectionals or districts, puts together a really nice run at regions. He gets a tough matchup in Caden Milheim from Warrior Run in round one. So common theme there, not a lot of on paper winnable matches for these District 3 126s, but that's why you go out there and you wrestle them.
That's right. And then you drop down in the wrestlebacks and truly in the wrestlebacks, you never know what can happen. You know, I mean, you know, time is shorter, you know, people are maybe sometimes better on the mat and, you know, it just things can happen in the wrestleback. So again, it's that same philosophy, survive and move on.
And that mental standpoint too, who's ready to settle for the consolation prize,
Right.
Who's ready to have your back against the wall and have to win 3 or 4 in a row against tough kids. No
doubt. I mean, even the guys who lose, you know, the guys who lose, like you're in a big match in the quarterfinals and you're in a tight one and you almost win and you lose. Like, where's your head when you drop after that loss? You know, I think that's a big deal too, is, you know, where you're dropping and who you're dropping to.
Looking at 132, speaking of Doy's, Christian Doy it got a pretty tough first round matchup against Ethan Kolb Jr. from Benton. I think I would call that one pretty close to 50-50. Then a tough draw with Owen Reinsel from Brookville, likely in the quarterfinal round. So tough situation there for him, but he's a really good wrestler. And I think he's capable of, if it doesn't happen for him in one or the other, he's a kid who, if he hangs in there, is kind of capable of making a little bit of run through consolations, if that's what it comes down to. You have Blaine Pachalski, one of the more surprising, I think, state qualifiers of the entire Southeast region. You know, this was a kid who was banged up a bit, certainly not on that upper tier of West Perry kids you got to know about, but he just battled and grinded his way through and he finished 6th at the Southeast region. Here he is now, you know, likely to see Brandon Kletzes from Notre Dame Greenpont in the first round if he gets through there. But I think just a victory for him just to be there.
No, I'm with you. And again, a sophomore, you know, the experience that these guys bring back next year, you know, you get young guys to states and just that confidence they bring back the following year is huge for him as an individual, but even them as a team, you know, will really help. So, yeah, I feel like Christian Doy is the guy from District 3 that does have a shot to place. You know, where he's at, I don't know, but, you know, I think that he is the guy that does have a legit shot to do something there. So,
you've seen him string together matches before, and as a freshman he did it. He was a big surprise to get to the state tournament. Then he was a big surprise to win the Southeast Regional last year. Then he didn't get through the Super Regional. So if he's at his best, I think he's got a shot. Other guy there from District 3 to watch, Dominic Caldwell from Susquehanna, another tough draw. If he gets through Ashton Sykes of Tyrone in the prelims, Connor Heckman, Northeast Regional champ, waits for him from Midwest in the first round. Moving on to 138, Cobin Carper is the one to watch here, I think, from our area. Has wrestled extremely tough all year, Dave, and he's 38-4. 2 of those losses have come to Ryan Crookham from Saucon Valley. When they were on the podium at regionals, Ryan Crookham leaned down to Cobin Carper and said, "See you in the finals." So he thinks highly of Cobin Carper. Now, you know, one way or the other, it could be likely Conor Pierce from Harbor Creek, undefeated senior, tough matchup in the quarterfinals. Cole Bisco from Southern Columbia is nobody to really gloss over either in that pigtail round. So Cobin's going to have his hands full, and maybe, just maybe, I think odds suggest that he's going to have to do some battling through the consolation round, but he's a senior. And I feel like after the way last season ended, he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't wrestle the way that he wanted. I feel like he's going to let it fly.
Yeah, I mean, finals or not, I do have him placing, you know, wherever he gets to. But again, you know, that's cool that Crookham, you know, said that to him about being in the finals, but you still got to do it, you know, and you have to go through, you know, 3 6-minute matches to get there. So, you know, hopefully he does. I'd love to see that. And I think he does have the ability and has been, you know, progressing all year, wrestling really well all year. So it'd be nice to see him, you know, end his senior year here with a nice little run and bring home a nice high medal for himself. So.
You got Carmine Lindsey from Berks Catholic, the freshman. Good tournament at Southeast Regional. He'll get Crookham likely in the first round if he gets through there. So not a lot of easy matchups here. And I think that it's true for, as you're going through these brackets and you're looking, oh, that's a bad draw. I mean, there's not really any such thing as a good draw in these things. You're going to, if you want something nice, you got to wrestle somebody tough to get there. That's just the bottom line.
100%. And you can get a little lucky as far as where you fall and all that. And, we know that, but you've seen it. I've seen it. I mean, you think you're sitting good and then somebody knocks somebody off and now you're not sitting good. And it's so yeah, I mean, you take it one match at a time, right? And see what happens.
What's the challenge in getting kids to not be thinking about that stuff, not be thinking about the brackets, not be thinking about what's next, to kind of stay in the moment there?
Oh man, I again, it's very cliche, but just the one match at a time. I think controlling what you can control. And so much in sports and athletics and wrestling, you don't have control of a lot. I mean, you don't have control of who you wrestle. You don't have control of the referee. You don't have control of how the points are awarded. Essentially, you don't. I mean, you don't have. There's a lot of things you don't have control of. What kind of shoes that guy has on, what singlet he has on. So control what you can control, and your pace and how intense you are, and being physical. And I mean, those are things you all have control of. So I really try to keep it simple, I think, and focus on those things rather than everything else that's going on around you that you have no control of, but tough, very difficult.
And this bracket here too, I think just has a lot of different challenges along the way. I think Connor Harrer from Montgomery, the sophomore, state medalist last year, looks to me like he's good enough to maybe consider a 3-time state champ, could be in his future. I mean, he's that type of kid. And that's the kid that Jacob Guilfoyle from Bishop Mcdevitt will get if he can make it through his first round matchup. I think Guilfoyle's got probably more ability than we've seen at certain times this year. And I think he's capable of some surprises, but that's a tough surprise to ask for in the quarterfinal round.
Yeah, and if things don't work out, he is a wrestler that could come back through. I mean, he's tough on top. So, guys that are tough on top like that, in those wrestle backs where, you're wrestling more on the mat a lot of times than you are on your feet, because of the shortened period and, the shortened first period. Either way, where you fall, who falls and where they fall, and that all matters. And, I do think Guilfoyle has a shot to come back through and hopefully get some wins there and find himself on the medal stand.
One guy I think you got to watch, Ian Wilson from Boiling Springs. At the very least, he's the guy most capable of putting up a football score every time he goes out there. He beat Guilfoyle 17-10 in the district finals. He places 6th at Southeast Regional, or 5th. To get his spot there. Eric Alderfer from Faith Christian Academy, who won the Southeast Regional, will be waiting for him if he can get through there. But, Ian Wilson, with that sort of pin, near fall, cradle type stuff he's got going on, could give himself a shot in some of these Conti matchups if that's where he ends up. 152, I think you've got a clear-cut favorite here in Jackson Arrington from Forest Hills, kind of a cut above most guys in this entire tournament, not just the weight class. So no disrespect to Michael Dugan, who will likely see Jackson Arrington in the quarterfinal round, or Justice Hockenberry Folk, who's doing a lot of good wrestling from West Perry after he bumped down to 152. Andrew Christie wrestled a really sound, solid match against Dugan in the Southeast Regional Finals to get a little bit better position there. And I think Andrew Christie is in pretty solid position to make it the whole way through. If he shows up and wrestles hard, wrestles at a high level, he's got, there's nothing you can take for granted, but I would much rather be in the bottom half of this bracket than the top.
Yeah, I'd say so. He is sitting pretty good though. I would agree with that. I think, if he wrestles like he's been, I mean, he can find himself in the semifinals and then, possibly the finals. I know, the Dugan first round matchup against Cooper Price from Wyoming area, the North, coming out of the Northeast. I mean, that kid's no slouch either. So, obviously, you have to win a big first round match and then you jump into Jackson Arrington. But either way, you take it one at a time. And, as much as we want to see the Michael Dugan, Jackson Arrington, matchup there in the quarterfinals, Michael's definitely got to focus on this Price kid. So,
well, totally one match at a time. And I think he's pretty good with that. So it's just kind of coming through and just letting it fly against Jackson Arrington and wrestle like you don't have anything to lose. You're not the favorite in that matchup. So just go out there and let it fly. Looking at 160, you've got a returning state champion, Grant McKay from Laurel at the top of the bracket. We're looking at Gannon Smith from Newport here, also in the top half of the bracket. I don't hate his route to getting a shot at Grant McKay, and I don't really hate his chances against Grant McKay. McKay wrestles a lot of tight matches, and whenever you're in a lot of tight matches, you're always going to be, a takedown or a turn away. And I think Gannon Smith, probably a good timely loss in the Southeast Regional Final, get a taste of what that feels like, and maybe do a little soul searching, I think, this week to get his best form ready for Hershey.
Yeah, sometimes, a loss can help you kind of realign yourself a little bit, refocus yourself. But I think I think a lot of wrestling fans are expecting a little bit and hoping for a Gannon Smith, Grant McKay semifinal there up top. McKay, a returning state champ, obviously he's going to be a tough one to go through, but Gannon Smith is equally as tough. So I'm excited to see how he actually makes out here. And then in the bottom side there, you have the Glassner kid from Bishop Mcdevitt. Hopefully he can, again, get through that pigtail match. And, he has a tough little road, but, I'd like to see him get through and get some matches down below and the wrestlebacks as well.
Yeah, Glesner's a tough kid. I'm not sure if anybody really is looking forward to wrestling him. So maybe a shot to create a little bit of a noise down there in the bottom half. Moving on to 172, again, returning state champion Rune Lawrence from Fraser. Really tough kid that he'll see likely in the quarterfinals of Nolan Lear from Benton, who spent a good chunk of time ranked number 2 in the state at 172 pounds. So that should be a good quarterfinal there. Garrett Garcia from Southern Columbia. He's a kid that Jagger Gray from Trinity beat earlier this year. He looks to be kind of coming into his own a little bit there. Jake Jones, the Southeast Regional champ from Saucon Valley, is there too. And I think, that combination of guys likely to occupy most of the semifinal spots. Coming from District 3 in the Southeast region, Lucas Lawler from Bishop Mcdevitt, I think a great job for him to keep battling and get to this place in the first place. If he beats Easton Belfort from Brookville, who I think he beat earlier this year in the team championships, Rune Lawrence will await him. So not a great situation, I think, there, but I think Lawler seems to have a good presence of mind to be able to compartmentalize that. If it's something ugly would happen against Rune Lawrence, I don't think it's going to impact him for the Concy round. So I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and again, he has a freshman, Lawler getting there and getting the experience of wrestling at states. And, again, if things don't go well against the Lawrence kid, maybe drop down and get on a little bit of a roll, so I'd like to see him do that.
Gabe Davis and Berks Catholic. He's the kid who knocked Jagger Gray out of the Southeast Regional. Tough kid, man. I think just athletic and just difficult to beat. He'll get a shot likely against Garrett Garcia if he can win in that prelim round. Looking at 189, I think you've got a couple guys you can install as favorites here, but the District 3 guys have a chance to make a little bit of noise. I think Cade Werner, he's explosive enough to see him, giving some of these guys a run. The Kutchenberger kid from Quaker Valley, if he sees him in the quarterfinal, that's a tough matchup for anybody. Southeast Regional champ Jacob Scheib is a tough kid in the bottom half of the bracket. You see, guys like Isaac Corey and Jackson Zimmerman, who are tough outs too. Tucker Painter from Trinity will wrestle a pigtail match in the bottom there. We'll get Isaac Corey of Montoursville in the first round. I think, if Tucker Painter and Cade Warner wrestle as their best selves, these are both guys who can contend for the medal stand for sure.
And Tucker isn't sitting too bad there. You know what I mean? And that he has a pigtail, and then he gets the Corey kid from Montoursville, who's 37-6. That's at least not a bad spot. It's not like you're coming into like a returning state champ or something, So, and again, Tucker wrestles how Tucker believes. And, I think, he's that guy that if he wants to wrestle well, he does. If not, then he doesn't wrestle well. So, it'll be interesting to see what Tucker shows up, but I think he can come through the bottom half there a little bit if he gets on a roll. So,
Cole Karpinski ranked number 1 in the state. He's 38-0, and that wasn't against a cushy schedule. He's beaten some really good kids along the way. Colin Neal from Boiling Springs, if he wins in the first round, he gets Noah Foltz from Bald Eagle area. He would wrestle Cole Karpinski in that first round matchup. Looking at 215, Brad Morrison from West Perry looks like a pretty good solid bet to make his way through the bottom half of this bracket. Hayden Linkerhoff, I think, from Corey, who's a state medalist. He's a senior as well, would be considered, I think, the number 1 threat to Brad Morrison there. But then, really tough Dayton Pitzer is one of the, I don't know, 3 or 4 guys you circle as being transcendent type talents. So tough matchup regardless in the finals. But I think for Brad Morrison, realistic shot here to get through there and hit his goal of wrestling in the state finals.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I think the one thing he has to make sure he does is win this first match. Cale Black there from Eisenhower, 32-3, is not a bad kid. That guy coming off of a match, you know what I mean, gets him first round, so he has to make sure he gets a good warm-up. But I feel like if he gets by that first round match, the jitters of being in states and all that, I would agree with you. I have him kind of penciled in the finals too. And, you know, yeah, Pitzer is tough, and I would say that, you know, Pitzer would be favored over Morrison, but at the end of the day, you got to get there first. So, you know, get there, and then we'll talk about that matchup type of deal and take care of your bottom half. And I really like Morrison's chances on this in this bottom half. Good kid, hard worker. I'd like to see him get there.
Tough on top too, which when you're talking about these big bodies, you don't have a lot of these guys who have high level skill from the top position. That's what I think Brad Morrison can kind of set himself apart. Brody Klein from Berks Catholic also in this bracket in the top half. So these are guys worth watching as we go. Last one here, and I think one of the more exciting ones looking at 285, Riley Robel from Bishop Mcdevitt, the favorite here. But you have some different types of threats. Emmanuel Ulrich, who Riley beat in the state tournament last year along the way. I feel like, you know, Ulrich has a win recently over Austin Johnson from Muncie, who made a late jump up to 285 from 215. But Robel, I mean, it's just hard to believe he's not getting back there and winning this thing. You know, he is a good solid 30 to 40 pounds heavier than he was last year. I don't really see him moving any worse than he did last year. His shoulders look broader. He's stronger. He's a little meaner. I think he's he's positioned himself very, very well. Ulrich would be a threat in the quarterfinal round. It was a narrow decision over him last year, but I think Robel's gotten so much better since then. And then I think Austin Johnson is a tough kid for Muncie, but can a kid who's weighing in presumably around 225 pounds wrestle a kid like Riley Robel, who's a robust 275, who moves almost as well as you do, and who's got that, you're going to carry that 50 pounds around. It's just hard for me to see Robel losing here. He's got to go out there and take care of business. But if you look at, you know, the Southeast Regional Finals, when he decked Leo Muzica from Faith Christian Academy, I see him maybe not even just winning this thing, but being pretty dominant in every round along the way.
You know, I'm a big fan. I mean, I've been talking about this kid all year, and I agree with you. I see him kind of rolling, and you know, can somebody give him some problems? Maybe, but I don't know, man. To do it for 6 minutes, to hold that guy off for 6 minutes and outscore him, or, you know, do what you need to do to get to win that match. I just don't see it happening. He's wrestling tough right now. He's confident. You know, we've been talking about him all year long, and I think if he's focused, right, and nothing crazy happens, no slams, no injuries, nothing crazy. And look, I mean, here's the deal: we've seen this happen before, right? I mean, you know, you gotta wrestle him, you gotta wrestle it out. But I'd love to see that kid grab a gold medal, and I think he's a pretty heavy favorite. So.
And I think he deserves to be. So I'm fully expecting. I think the experience last season, he gassed himself out a bit in the finals of pacing himself and understanding where he needs to be mentally, emotionally, and that kind of thing. It's going to pay dividends this year. I believe he's going to be a state champ as well. Let's move on to AAA, Dave. I know we're going kind of quick through these things, but we also don't want to spend 4 hours talking about them either. Tough weight class at 106 pounds, just up and down. I mean, you can say this in a lot of cases, but when you have a kid like Nate Desmond from Bethlehem Catholic, who very much to me looks like he has a 4-timer capability, certainly multi-time state champ, he's installed as a pretty sound favorite in this one. But, you know, Liam Flanagan, the sophomore from Central Dauphin, wrestled extremely well in the district tournament. He's going to have to continue that and probably take it up another level, because he's got, you know, a top 6 or 7 kid right off the bat in Tyler Capusta from Franklin Regional, likely Aaron Cement from Council Rock North in the quarterfinal round. And if all goes great there, that would be Nathan Desmond in the semifinal round. So no matches off here, Dave. He's got to bring it right out of the gates.
I circled bout number 554, Liam Flanagan and Tyler Capusta first round. That's going to be a good first round matchup. You know, I do have him placing. So in my bracket, so, looking things and looking where he would fall at different points if he loses and what happened. I do have him kind of coming back through if he wrestles the way he did it at the district tournament. You know what I mean? If we see that kid and he brings that kid to states, then he can place. You know what I mean? So I think, as far as the rest of District 3 there, Dean Hauser, Jordan Williams, Marco Tachi of Warwick, I think those guys are all going to have their work cut out for them. But I do think Liam Flanagan does have a shot to medal.
Yeah, and these are tough kids, but there's a lot of other tough kids there too. I think you're gonna see some chaotic matches in this one, and maybe some of these D3 kids can take advantage there. I think Liam Flanagan, outside of the top couple kids, I think all bets are off from
I agree.
From 3 to 8 on the podium. Moving on to 113. Right off the bat, Caden Williams from Manheim Township, returning state champion. He's up at 113 pounds now. We talked about him a good bit last week, just about what he went through at the district tournament and whether he can be conditioned enough to go hard. Well, I think as you look at this bracket and you see Nick Allison from Mifflin County and Tahir Parkins from Nazareth, one of those guys will be wrestling Caden Williams in the quarterfinal round. That's going to be a dogfight right out of the gates. And I think it's going to set the tone for Williams that nothing's going to come easy this time around. I think he's fully capable of making the run the whole way through here, but that this weight class, and even looking at the bottom, Kale Nasdio from Williamsport, state finalist, Zach Jackaruso from Delaware Valley, top ranked in the state finalist last year, has gotten even better now at 113 pounds. This is going to be a wild ride. I think quarters, semis, and finals up and down.
Yeah, I mean, that first round, about 561 with Nick Allison and Parkins, and you talked about that. Williams gets the winner of that. That first round match is going to be a dogfight right out of the gate. That's when I circled to make sure I check out. And then, like you said, Williams and whoever that winner is in that quarterfinal is going to be a heck of a quarterfinal. Can Williams put it together? Yeah. I mean, look, say what you want. I mean, but he knows how to wrestle. The Williams are both very good wrestlers, and they've been to the big dances before. That they know how to win in the big dance, and as much as they might have some hiccups in this year of what's going on, you cannot count them out. You just can't. And however, I do see him placing, top 3, top 4, and hopefully coming back through. And, the other guy to watch there that I do have some respect for, and I think wrestles pretty tough is Nico Tachi. And, if I don't have him obviously winning, the whole thing or coming through the bottom half, but I think if he's a guy that if he drops in wrestlebacks and stays positive, he could be a tough drop down. You know what I mean? Like, you're dropping down the Nico Tachi. He's strong. He stays in pretty good position. He wrestles hard for 6 minutes. So, he could be a drop down nightmare for some guys. So, I'd like to see him come back and get some wins there in the wrestlebacks.
And really going to challenge do you want that bronze medal or do you not? There's going to be a point in that match, 5.5 minutes in, whether you're really going to have to decide how much you want that. He's exactly the type of kid who's going to make you come to that determination. I think that's one of the primary reasons he beat Caden Williams a couple weeks ago, was that, he was going to go for 6 minutes and he wasn't going to care. And I think that mentality is going to take him a long way. Could take him a long way in this tournament. 120 day, for my money, the deepest, maybe best bracket of the tournament. And, we got Mason Leapart from Dover at the very top of it, ranked number 1 in the state. But right below his first round matchup, Charlie Bunting from Nazareth against Troy Holman, who won a Powerade title in the first round. Leapart will get the winner of that matchup. Asher Cunningham from State College, really talented freshman. Jacob Haupt, veteran, senior from Camden Macmillan there. Then you've got, a guy like Sean Logue from Father Judge coming out of the pigtails down below, maybe wrestling Carmen Cortez from Westchester Henderson. I mean, that top half for sure, but the whole way down here, Dave, there's not really a lot of things you can say with certainty here.
No, and in the bottom half, you have Camden Williams and Vinny Kilkery. Those two guys are tough cats. So, and, Cale McIntyre from Bethlehem Catholic down below. So as tough as that up top, bracket is, I mean, the bottom half is equally as tough. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is a deep weight. And, the District 3 in me, I'm rooting for Mason Leapart, and I think he can definitely get it done. But he's going to have to do some work. That's for sure.
And it's going to start right off the bat. Bunting and Holman are a tough draw against each other, first and foremost, and then for Leapart in the quarterfinal round. So I think he'll be ready for it. Mentally, I think he'll be ready for whatever is going to get thrown at him. And, he's dynamic enough, and he controls things from top, not going to give you a 1 point no matter what. You're going to have to earn that 1 point against him. So I think that gives him a shot against anybody. But that is a tough weight class. I really, really want to see Mason Leapart and Vinny Kilkeary final. Really want to see that just from a style and body perspective and how they go about it. That would be a clash that was just tough to predict.
Yeah, that's actually who I have penciled in the finals. So I'd love to see. I think the wrestling fan of me wants to see that matchup, like you said. So.
Yeah. Looking at 126, Carl Schindeldecker from Chambersburg installed at the very top of that bracket. In all likelihood, we'll get one of the best freshmen in the state in Maddox Shaw from Thomas Jefferson. He's 37-5. He's done some high level wrestling. Lost to Ethan Lieben from Hempfield area in the Whippeal finals. So he lands there. Braxton Apello-Freeze from Nazareth sprung a bit of an upset in the Northeast region to win that one. Dalton Perry, one of the other, I think if you're going to say 3 or 4 top freshmen in the state, 2 of them are in this bracket, and Dalton Perry from Central Mountain and Maddox Shaw, and both of them are in the top half of the bracket right there for Carl Schindeldecker to probably have to get through that.
Yeah. Look at it. I love it. I mean, it's just awesome competition. I mean, just good first round matchups. The quarterfinal round up top. I mean, you're going to have, I think Schindeldecker and Shaw, and then you're going to probably have the Apello-Freeze versus Dalton Perry. I mean, that's a great quarterfinal up top bracket. And down below, how about this first round matchup? Jacob Van D and Dante Frenzy. I mean, that is an incredible first round matchup down below. Again, those guys are both good, both from good schools. And, I think the winner of that match has a shot to go to the finals. So.
Absolutely. And, Frenzy's a state medalist, Jake Van D, state champ, 2-time state finalist. And he's here in the first round wrestling Dante Frenzy because he got pinned by Dalton Perry in sudden victory in the Northwest Regional Finals. And it's just crazy how those regional finals can have such an influence on these pre-slotted brackets. And as you said, luck of the draw, not very good luck right there for Jake Van D to have to come out of the gates with him. And but I do think he gets through. It's tough.
But like you said before, where again in this weight class is their luck? Like, I mean, no matter where you fall, I mean, you're getting a horse for sure. And just one of those weights that, I mean, maybe Dalton Perry helped him out, himself out there a little bit, but I mean, he's going to have a tough go too. So it's just one of those weight classes, like you said, that, no matter where you fall, I mean, it's deep. So.
Like the looks of this 132-pound weight class, Dave, where you have a little bit of intrigue. So Mac Church, returning state champ, the favorite by all accounts in this weight class. We got Braden Bauer from Williamsport, who was a top 3 or 4 kid in the state who will see Mac Church. Church, I think, beat him pretty handily back in Powerade a while back. So I would expect him to get through to the semifinals. Colin Wrath, another one of those elite freshmen from Bethlehem Catholic. He's 21, got a late start to the season, but he is really, really impressive. Another good freshman there from Quakertown. So there's a good chance that Mac Church is going to have to fend off some of that new blood in the semifinals. And then in the bottom half, Matt Repos from Central Dauphin. I like his setup to get into the semis. And then I really want to see Matt Repos, Luke Simcox in the semis there. Simcox beat Repos at the Super Regional last year, looked huge compared to Repos at 126 pounds. Now, I think he lessened some of that with the work that he did in the off season. He looks really good at 132. Is this the year that Matt Repos gets back to the finals? And will he see Mac Church for the 4th time in his high school career in the state finals?
Yes, he will. I'm calling that now.
Stamp it.
I am. I'm rooting for the kid. District 3. The matchup with Simcox, I couldn't agree more with you. Last year when you saw them wrestle the Super 32, he just looks so much bigger than Repos. You know what I mean? So now I feel like, that's off the table. Repos coming in at a nice size, good weight, and that would be a good. That's who I have in the semis: Repos and Simcox, and that'd be a good one to see. And so I'm going to go with the other guy this time, and hopefully get D3 in the finals there against Mac Church at the top.
I think Repos can get it done. Simcox has definitely improved, but I think Repos, so technical, so skilled, and now he's not giving away a strength advantage. And it can allow, sometimes that technique doesn't mean a whole lot. The angle doesn't mean much if a guy can just throw you off, right? Like if the guy's stronger than you, there's only so far that technique can take you. So to eliminate that is a big deal for him. Yeah. So looking at 138, I think you've got a pretty firm favorite in this one, Tyler Kasak from Bethlehem Catholic, another kid who I think is just sort of next level. He'll be looking for a second straight state title. You got another state champ in the bottom half of the bracket in Briar Priest from Hempfield area. Good kid from Dom Ventura, who we saw, locally a couple times at the Carlisle tournament, or it was Chambersburg. And I think at the CV Kickoff Classic, we saw him a couple times. And then you got Pearson Manville from State College, the sophomore, who is really, really good. Already has a loss once this season to Tyler Kasak. Hard to see him getting through there, but you've got some surefire hammers that some of the rest of the state's going to have to try to contend with. And I'm not sure that I would go against chalk in this case. Kasak and Manville in one semifinal, Findora and Priest in the other, and then Kasak beating Briar Priest in the final. That's what I got.
That's exactly what I got too. And I even have Manville and Findora coming back and finishing 3 and 4. So those are the top 4 in my opinion. I think the Alicia kid from Mannheim Township does have a shot to medal, but he has obviously a tough draw out the gate with the tough 9th grader there, Dama from Connellsville, and then obviously he hits Manville in the quarters. So either way, I'm hoping that District 3 can get a medal here, and I think he's the guy that has a shot to do it.
There's a good layer of tough kids too, including Alicia, Colton Stonekin, Kelly Keikos from Perkiomen Valley, Lonzie Velma from Connellsville. The consolation bracket could get kind of wild down there. That with that tier of guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking at 145, you've got Finn Solomon, who's a returning state champion from Franklin Regional. Jude Swisher, who's ranked number 1 in the state at 145. Really good kid. He has a win over Finn Solomon going back to King of the Mountain. Andrew Harmon's the Northeast Regional from a champ from Bethlehem Catholic. He looked like a new guy after dropping down from 152. Ty Waters from West Allegheny also has a win over Finn Solomon earlier this year. He lost to Solomon though in the Southwest Regional final. So those are some good names that you're going to have to try to bust up this bracket, kind of like 138. I think you've got guys who have a stronghold and are strong favorites, and you're looking at Riley Bauer from Williamsport. Can Mike Trainer make a little bit of a run? I don't hate his pod there.
I don't either.
If he shows up and wrestles, he's got himself a shot. So we'll see if he does that. But again, I think it would surprise me if we're not looking at probably a Jude Swisher. I think Ty Waters from West Allegheny is going to be tough to beat there. And then, looking at Finn Solomon coming out of the top half of that bracket.
Couldn't agree more. I gave Trainer the benefit of the doubt there, and I have him in the semis. But that pod that he's in is really wide open, in my opinion. But I do have him in there, and I do have Trainer and Lefevre placing in my bracket. So hopefully those guys again can bring home a medal. But I have exactly what you have: Swisher and Waters in the bottom, and I have Solomon coming out up top. So.
152 pounds. You have District 3 guys who, I said this earlier in the week, all 4 guys who came out of District 3 are almost the exact same guy. It's hard to differentiate between Caden Dobbins, who won the weight class, and kudos to him. Dom Frontino, who was the other finalist. You had JT Hogan, who was the 3rd place guy from District 3, and then Griffin Gonzalez. They're all wrestling 1-point matches against each other. So now how do they fare in this weight class? Dylan Evans is the guy to beat, I think, from Chartiers Valley, the junior there. If Frontino beats Jake Daly from Bethlehem Catholic, he'll see likely Dylan Evans in the quarterfinal round, although Jack Pletcher from Greater Latrobe presents a little bit of a problem there too. Caden Dobbins, I don't hate his chances there. Kellen Laffey from Pine Richland was ranked number 1 in the state before he lost this past weekend, so he's got some ability. But Caden Dobbins, he looks like he's on a mission, and he wrestled that way at regionals. Will that be enough in this weight class? I think there's, I think there's a shot, but ultimately, Condomity from Northampton. I mean, there are some other names here who are just going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, for sure. I do like, I like Frontino's draw off the gate or out the gate. I tell you whose draw I don't like, and that is Griffin Gonzalez in the pigtail against Nico Tachi. Tati's tough, catching the Southwest 3 there. And then you wrestle in the Condomity there. So that's just a tough draw there as far as the bracket. Dobbins, I actually have Dobbins and Frontino maybe coming through and grabbing a medal down below. But the rest of the guys are going to have to wrestle, I think, and they're not out of it by any chance, because like you said, they're very similar. So, it'll be interesting to see how they fall. But I would like to see that. I'd like to see Frontino and Gonzalez or Dobbins or somebody their place. So.
Frontino's a good tournament wrestler too, because, survive and advance. He's comfortable in tight matches. He's going to wrestle Kid and Dylan Evans, who's pretty tough though in the quarterfinal round. And he's got to beat Jake Daly from Bethlehem Catholic to get there. Moving on to 160, I think you've got, two of maybe like the three best 160s are going to wrestle in the quarterfinal round. Jared Kessler from Connellsville, who won the Whitfield championship. Matt Colagesi from Council Rock South, who lost in the Southeast regional finals. That'll be a really good quarterfinal right out of the gates. But Kessler looks like he's a good bet to get his way through. Now, the question is from our end, Ryan Garvik, I think there are some talented kids in his pod there, but I think there's a path for him to get to the semis as well.
I couldn't agree more. I actually have him in the finals. So I mean, he's going to have to wrestle. Sean Taylor from West Allegheny, is a tough kid, and Ryan's going to have to put together a great tournament to get there. But I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I actually, like you said, I have him in the finals against Kessler. So he can definitely do it. And that'd be a heck of a tournament for him as a sophomore. If he can get to that final match.
And I think just like you said with Flanagan, that's with the condition attached that Garvik wrestles the way that he did at the District 3 tournament. He was aggressive. Right. He was sharp. It was an initiative from a challenge from Jeff Swigert to not be content to let guys get on your legs and work your way out of it. Why don't you set the pace? He did a really good job of that at districts. Can that carry over now on a bigger stage with some tougher kids? Will he believe in that enough to not settle into old habits, when the whistle blows? All you can hope for, though, if you're a kid who realistically can wrestle his way into the finals, all you can hope for in a bracket is to be situated where there's a guy who's not unbeatable on your side, sure, not unbeatable in your pod. And Ryan Garvik is in a situation. He has it. Yep, absolutely. I think, Barlow from Strathaven, Landon Muth from Bethlehem Catholic, Chase Kranitz from Norwin has the ability to wrestle his way from pigtail to semifinal, perhaps. But none of these guys are unbeatable by any means. And if Ryan Garvik shows up and wrestles big, I think there's a lot of possibilities on the table for him.
I agree. And I'd like to see him do it. So,
yeah. Looking at 172, Rocco Welsh, he's been a state finalist. He's gotten a lot of silver in his career. Now he's situated as a pretty firm favorite at that weight. Kevin Oliveria is a tough kid from Manheim Township, super athletic, but Rocco Welsh is so powerful, so good with his position wrestling, so accustomed to being physical and being in tight matches. It's just going to be tough to get past him. That's a tall order for Kevin Oliveria. Cole Bartram is coming out of the pigtails. I think he's got a situation where he doesn't have anybody who's unbeatable in that pod either. I made this point earlier on the PIAA Power podcast. If Bartram comes out as his best physical self, there are some possibilities in play for him too. I think he could be a surprise coming out of the pigtail.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Welsh, obviously, I mean, he's my number one, like pound for pound guy. If I, look at every weight class, if I had to pick one guy that I thought was going to go out and win it, life or death situation, he'd be the guy I'd pick. And there's some other ones in there too, but man, I think he's just kind of a cut above the rest. I do feel good about Bartram. And I'll tell you, the other guy I feel good about down below is Tucker Hogue. I think, he can make a little run there and possibly find himself in the finals if he can get through that semifinal match. I have him wrestling the D'Agostino kid from Interboro, who's pretty tough. But, either way, some District 3 guys there I think can do something. So it'd be an interesting weight to watch.
Tucker Hogan, the sophomore from Daniel Boone, won the District 3 championship at 172 pounds, pinned Oliveria in the final. He is super tough and super long on top. And that is something that can carry him through. I think Matt Furman from Cannon Mac is a tough matchup probably in the quarterfinals. But Hogan, if he can just kind of hang in there, he can do some scoring and do some pinning from the top position. And I think that could hold true against almost anybody. Every match he's in is a clash of styles because he's got limbs that drag. He's got knuckles that drag on the floor. And some kids are going to have a hard time dealing with that.
He does. And I tell you, I like him. I got to be honest. I think he's rangy. He's long, like you said. He's physical when he wrestles, and I see him being a fit for some of these guys down below.
Look at 189 pounds. This is the bracket of all brackets to try to drag the PIAA, and the way that they go about building their brackets. You have Maxed Out from Mount Lebanon, undefeated, nationally ranked, state finalist a couple years ago, but was injured last year, which factors into how this bracket was made. You've got Sonny Sasso, who made about a 180-degree turn in his wrestling over the course of about 12 to 18 months. He was a 7th place guy last year. So now you have two guys who are among the very best in the nation at 189 pounds who will wrestle in the semifinals. And it just kind of comes down to that math. These guys are excellent, and they are by far, I think, the two best 189s in the state, but they have 2 state medals between them. And on paper, they don't look like unbeatable forces, even though what the naked eye says that they are. So now you have this bracket, maybe one of the more flawed, where if you had another layer of judgment, you wouldn't have these guys wrestling each other in the semis. But, you know, I think for Pennsylvania wrestling fans, that's going to be a really good reason to get there early on Saturday to watch these guys in the morning.
Yeah, and this is where I feel like the human element has to come in this somewhere. You know, I mean, there has to be somebody that sits down and looks at this and says, wait a second, you know, let's separate these two guys and make sure we get the right final. But in saying that, what that does is it opens up the top half of the bracket. You know what I mean? So now, you know, that top half of the bracket's open. Top half of the bracket opens up, and you know, I have Johnny Miller from Exeter, you know, maybe doing some damage up top. You know, he was impressive last week in his quest for a district title. And I actually have, you know, him and Shoemaker here in the quarters. And, you know, I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, Shoemaker, Miller, and Collins up top, it's kind of wide open. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how that top, you know, does play out due to the seating situation down below.
Diesel Kozer from Shippensburg will wrestle Pigtail into Quinn Collins, the Southeast Regional champ from Central Bucks East. And then Johnny Miller, the District 3 champ. You know, I think outside of Sasso and Stout, he's capable of beating anybody. And he wrestled Sonny Sasso tough at the CV Kickoff Classic. I think it was a major, like a 12-4 kind of score, where Sasso was clearly better, but one of the few times that Sasso didn't finish somebody. And I think that's a feather in Johnny Miller's cap. He was a Super 32 medalist in October. So I think that kind of says it all about what his upside is. And his upside suggests that he could be in the final against one of these two other guys, either Max Stout or Sonny Sasso. Aiden Height from Chambersburg.
Who do you like? Do you like Stout or do you like Sasso, Dustin?
Boy, I mean, I think what flavor of ice cream, right? Like, so Max Stout, super good position, strong, you know, more of a straightforward wrestler. You know, Sonny Sasso can get funky if he needs to. He's long. I'm going to go with Max Stout in this one. I think it's going to be a fun clash of styles. But I like Max Stout just a little bit better, including the fact that, you know, he's been in a state final. I think, I love Sonny Sasso, but I don't think that this is his year. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I have the same thing. And that was my thought kind of exactly, was Max Stout maybe just a hair more seasoned, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Has kind of been there a little earlier. And, but nonetheless, man, one that, like you said, I can't wait for Saturday morning.
A hair more seasoned, but Sonny Sasso has better hair. So, I mean,
he does have that one. Hair.
So there's that. But I mean, Sonny Sasso is going to get himself a state title. I just don't know. I going that road through Max Stout's a tough one. Looking at 215, you know, the same thing we said about this weight at the District 3 level, I think is true again at the statewide level, where, you know, Brian Finnerty from Thomas Jefferson is in really good shape there. Nick Pavlechko is ranked #1 in the state from State College. He's an animal too. Carl DiGiorgio, one of his 2 losses was to Pavlechko at Escape the Rock. But Cole Waitman is a kind of a wild card coming back from injury. He's wrestled 12 matches. What kind of shape is he in? Jose Garcia was unbeaten, ranked #5 in the state before he lost a couple times last weekend. Mason Hale was one of the top 10 or 12 215s in the state. Corey Borio from Greater Latrobe is a tough kid. He gets Pavlechko in round 1. Sam Rodriguez, if he wrestles like he did at the district tournament, I don't think there's anybody off the table in terms of who he can beat. He likely gets Pavlechko in the quarterfinal round. Chase Levy from Nazareth is tough. There's just not a lot, just the bottom line. There's not a lot that you can write in pen. I would write in pencil in this bracket if you're making predictions.
Wide open. wide open. And you know, you look at these quarterfinal matches, and like you said, they go either way for me. You know, there's some first round matches I can kind of maybe grab a pen, but you know, in those quarterfinals on, I mean, there's no way. You know, I'm looking at DeGiorgio and Waitman, you know, Pavletsko, Rodriguez, Levy, McMillan, Armstrong, Finnerty. You know, there's some guys there. I mean, who's winning those matches? And I don't know. I think you know, the thing will play out here. And I do have the Garcia kid and Rodriguez grabbing some medals there from District 3. But I mean, look, you know, who knows? Who knows what they could end up? I mean, you know, I think this is a wide open weight. I do like Pavletsko and Finnerty in the finals, but that doesn't mean anything. You know, I feel like either of those two guys can be beat along the way. So.
And DeGiorgio is going to wrestle whoever comes out of that other pod tough in the semifinal round. Chase Levy from Nazareth. I mean, there's just nobody you can cast aside. And I would include Travis Armstrong in that group. You know, I think Travis Armstrong, when he's his like mean physical self, I think he's capable of beating most of these guys.
No, I agree.
And he went into, you know, a couple weeks of prep with a bad taste in his mouth too. And he strikes me as the kind of kid who will respond well to that bad taste.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, you know, again, just some parity in that weight class. And really, I think it's kind of wide open. So, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that are thinking the same thing, that, you know what I mean, have the Travis Armstrongs in that bracket and think that they can do something. So it'll be good. It'll be interesting. And like I said, a pretty wide open weight. I think of all the weights, you know what I mean? I think most weights you can kind of maybe pencil a guy or two in. But this one here, man, I just don't know. I don't know.
On the flip side, at 285 pounds, I think you can say with relative confidence that you're going to have Sean Kinney from Nazareth, who was in the state finals. Huge surprise as a freshman last year. Looks a little better this year too. And you've got Billy McChesney from Greensburg-Salem in the bottom half. I think you've got two firmly established favorites, and there could be some other chaos along the way. And certainly there can be some surprises. You know, Kinney's lost a couple times this year, including to Matt Cruz from Easton, who wrestles Leighton Schmick from Carlisle in the first round. That's a really good match for heavyweight. You're not talking about fluff balls there. You're talking about athletic, strong, broad-shouldered heavyweights who are a good matchup fit against each other. That's going to be a 3-2 match, one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I have that one penciled into that first round match, about number 653. I have it circled. That's what I want to see there with Schmick and Cruz. I mean, you know, the Cruz, there's a guy. I mean, heck, he beat Kinney already this year, like you said. So, you know, who knows what, you know, I have him in the semis against McChesney, but I don't know what he has for McChesney. But I mean, if he beat Kinney, he does have something. So I feel like that could be a pretty good semifinal matchup.
Tough kid for sure. And, you know, I'm really impressed. We mentioned it last week, Leighton Schmick to battle through and lose one and have to fight his way. Like, he's gotten the taste of having his back against the wall, Dave. And I think that can't hurt in a tournament like this where, you know, I like the LaVenture kid. And I would say that if Schmick gets his way past Matt Cruz, he'd probably be an underdog to the LaVenture kid, but I don't know that he's in he's got an unbeatable opponent along the way. And so if he is as good as he can be in this tournament, I think there's a lot of different scenarios in play. No,
I like Schmick. Like I said, I do have him placing. So I don't have him placing, you know, top first or second, but I mean, I do have him in there as a place winner. So, you know, if he enters the tournament with that same fortitude that he did last weekend, where, you know what, you lose, so what? I'm going to drop down. I'm going to get tough. I'm going to keep wrestling. Like, he will place, you know, so hopefully he brings that same attitude and gets it done for District 3.
Ben Stewart, tough matchup there against Oliver Bellotti from Clearfield in the first round. You know, he's a pinner though. He's a thrower and a pinner, and I give him at least a sliver of hope against almost anybody. Trevor Gallagher from Gettysburg. I think either Stone Joseph or Charles Cruz from Williamsport will be a tough matchup there. And I think, you know, these weights where in the South Central region where there's not a lot of separation from 1 to 4,
right?
You know, they're all kind of, you know, got a little uphill battle ahead of them.
I actually have Stu and Gallagher wrestling in the blood round.
And
just for how they fall and where they, yep.
Wouldn't that be fitting? Wouldn't that just be fitting?
Yep.
And a lot of times that's true. Just the way the brackets are built and the way kids lose and the way that kids drop down to the consi rounds, you see, unfortunately, a lot of times District 3 on District 3 crime in that blood round.
You do, and I'm sure there's other ones too, but you do get a lot of that. I've been in those matches, and yeah, because and like you said, there's not a lot of separation there, so they're good matches too. So but yeah, should be a good weekend of wrestling, man. I'm super excited, and see how District 3 and see how these guys make out.
It all starts Thursday, early morning, 9 a.m. start with the AA guys. AAA guys will be wrestling in the evening. I think Saturday of all days is the day to come, man. You get these AAA semifinals, which many of which are finals caliber matches. We touched on a bunch of them, including that 189. So come stay all day, get the finals in AA finals and AAA semifinals in AAA. So should be a good weekend of wrestling here in Hershey. We'll see if District 3 can hold up their end of the bargain. Stay tuned with us. I think we'll be back. I don't want to speak for you, Dave, but I think we'll be back next week one more time to look back on the state tournament, and then maybe another time along the way to hand out some awards or something. So we'll see. I'm not sure you've heard the last of us here on the PennLive Wrestling Podcast.
That's right. We're not done yet, are we?
No, we're not done yet. We'll come back in the blood round next week. So there you go. Enjoy the wrestling. You can watch it on Flow Wrestling. Go check it out at Giant Center, and we'll see you next time here on the PennLive Wrestling Podcast.